Guys, here we are again. This is what I'm working on right now. This is an ISX10 Cummins on the 2013 587 Peterbilt that I'm getting ready to sell. And I noticed I had an exhaust leak. Well, these clamps, here we go, the clamps that are on the exhaust are, they got steel bevels that are spot welded or fusion welded to them. And you loosen these clamps up. When you loosen them up, this bar comes out, and then you can just take the whole clamp off, and this is what holds the exhaust together on these. Now, the exhaust comes off the turbo here and runs down to there, and you can see the old gasket material that they had on there, on that flange. There's the other clamp, and then it goes into the DEF doser, which doses DEF, and when you regen, it doses fuel into the system to burn out the exhaust catalyst, or the filter. That is, see, you see that big barrel back here. See, the exhaust runs back to that big barrel. Well, there's your DPF filter. Now, anyway, we're getting ready to walk in the shop, and I'll show you what I found that was wrong. But what it was is you were starting to get exhaust fumes in the cab of the truck. And normally you take this to the shop, they see the pipe and they see a little soot on it, and they yank it off, and then they charge you $400 for a chunk of pipe. And I'm going to show you what I found out with this one. So here we go. Alright, well, what we have here is the turbo down pipe, and you see how it's all black here, and you've got soot on this lip here. Let me get that light. See the soot on the lip there, all the way around on this side. Well, that means that the gasket was leaking, and when the gasket was leaking, it was and you go to regen this truck, it was blowing flames out. It was hitting the frame. It was bouncing off the frame. I mean, the frame sits this, like, really close to this. It was coming in, it was lapping on the frame and rolling up the edge of the frame, and it was spraying flames and exhaust and everything right here. Now, when you go to the shop and they see this, they're going to see that, and they're going to be like, oh, well, this pipe here is bad. Well, I put my light in here, and I flex that pipe. Let's shut off this other light. I flex that pipe. There's no light showing out of that pipe. That pipe is not cracked. It's not leaking. You can see that pipe's fine. And there's no soot down here, so it's not the seal where the pipe goes into the flange. If it was actually leaking, the leak would be up in here where it's black. But you can see the braiding on this pipe is burnt right there. So there should be a hole in there. And a lot of shops wouldn't do what I'm doing here to flex that pipe to see if there actually is a hole in that pipe. They'd replace it. This little section of pipe is $379 plus tax. Well, so I got to looking at that flange, and you see the gasket's broken right there, and it's melted. So what I'm going to have to do is take this to the wire wheel and clean all this gasket material off of here, and make a new gasket for this. Now, I can just go buy the gasket, but if I go buy that gasket, I've got to drive all the way to Smyrna, which is a 2-hour drive one way. So it's going to take me 4 hours to go down there and back to get a gasket. So instead, we're just going to make it. So stay tuned, guys. Alright. Well, I just got done with my wire wheel. You could probably hear it spooling down. But I cleaned all that old gasket material off of there. I've got a little spot right there I need to take care of. It's where it melted. You can see how it ruined that gasket from the flames getting up in here and creating a hot spot. And if you're curious about what I was talking about with the frame, just say this is the frame. The frame has a 90-degree bend up here. When the flames come out, it hits the frame, and then it rolls up the frame, and the 90-degree bend was directing those flames and heat directly at the side of that pipe. So that's why this is all black here. But this is fine. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's just a gasket. So let's get our gasket material and start making one. Alright, this is our gasket material that we're going to use. There's your part number. I picked this up at AutoZone. And what this is a paper covered steel mesh. And this is the same stuff that I use to put the head gasket, or make a head gasket for the flathead brakes that used to be on the Mako. So we're going to make us a gasket for this now. Just set it on there. And there's my ring. That's the inside edge of it, right here. So now I'm just going to cut out the inside edge first, and then see how much of a lip I need, and then mark the outside edge, and then cut it out with some tin snips. Well, okay, now that I've got my circle highlighted, problem is, how do I find the center of this circle without measuring from here to here and doing a bunch of math and putting a bunch of dots until I have 2 dots that intersect? I'm going to show you a simple and easy way to find the center of a circle when you've got to do something like this. You take you a square, and you line your square up with one part of your circle here and here. So you're going to line it up. I'm going to use my phone light to help see. Hold on here, because I've got a dark side. Welcome to the dark side. There we go. So I press this down, find this edge of the circle and the top edge of the circle. There. And I'm just going to draw a line here and there, just like that. So now I've got one point to come off of here to draw a diagonal line. We're going to flip this around, and we're going to line up this edge of the straight edge with that. And we're going to line up the top edge. Just like that. And then we're going to put it right there on the line there. And line it up there. And there we go. Now all we've got to do is go from that point to that point here, and this point to that point right there, and now we have the dead center of that circle. So we can now use a protractor and set it up for 1/2 inch or whatever we need, and draw the secondary or the external circle so that we can make our donut flame gasket. Cool, huh? Saved me a bunch of measurement and a bunch of time. How about y'all? I'm sorry if that last shot was a little out of frame, but anyway, what I've done now is I've taken my tape measure from that center point out to where I want the outside diameter of the gasket to be. Took me a little block of wood here, drilled the hole I could stick an ink pen in, put a screw in the center, I'm going to run that screw down, and then run that screw through here, like that. We're now going to drop our ink pen in. Yep. Helps to not have stuff in the way. We're going to take the ink pen, and we're going to draw our line. to make the center or the outer radius of the circle that I'm going to cut out to make the outside edge of my gasket. I know it looks kind of crappy right in here, but I had the pin angled and I should have had the pin straight up and down. But I've got the outside radius of that circle and the outside diameter of my gasket now. Now all we got to do is switch that bit off. Go over to the hole saw I had like 10 seconds ago that disappeared. Hole saws and 10mm wrenches. I'm telling you guys. Hole saws and 10mm wrenches. They always disappear. 10mm sockets are the worst though. You lose a 10mm socket down here in Tennessee, you get your name and address on it. If somebody ever finds that 10mm socket, you might get a shipping address from Canada to if the guy actually decides to return your socket. A little too far out. This can be fun. But anyway, I got a hole started. I get it through the outer layer. I'm just going to take a chisel and just punch that out now. Alright, well as it turned out, the 10 snips actually worked a lot better, and I just started in that hole there that I messed up. And I didn't check this hole saw. It's offset. You see how it's sliding sideways? Well, darn it. But I didn't check the chuck on this, and I should have, but this is the one I use in the drill press whenever I make my intake manifold gaskets. That's the wrong hole saw. I shouldn't have used that. But you can see the metallic fiber in this. This whole sheet right here that was 12 by 28 and a half, 16th inch thick exhaust gasket material. That whole sheet right there cost me 10-15 bucks. And again, there's your part number. So now all I need to do is take the 10 snaps and cut that outer radius, and then we could put this back on that flange and take a mallet and form this gasket the way I want it. And then I'm going to put some sealant on there. Whenever I put it back together, it's kind of a temperature guard. Okay, well, I'm back from town and I've got my gasket made, and it's going to fit just fine in the flange. And then I got some quick steel exhaust repair putty. It'll handle 2400 degrees. Well, whenever you regen a truck, you're at 1200 degrees. So I'm getting ready to put on a pair of my gloves. If I can get them out. But I'm going to put on a pair of my mechanics gloves. And I'm going to use this to protect my skin from the Quick Steel brand exhaust putty. And then I'm going to coat my gasket with the Quick Steel exhaust putty. And then we're going to reinstall this back on the truck and see if we can get us a regen, which I know we can. I mean, the truck will regen now, but it's all about the exhaust fumes coming up in the cab, which, you know, I talked to you guys about that, about the gasket being blown, and using the frame to channel the flames in the exhaust onto this, making it look like this was bad when it's actually the gasket. get out my trusty Case XX. I'm going to mix it up in the container there. And I'm kind of in a hurry because we have freezing rain starting to come down out here, and I'm in a t-shirt. So I've really got to get this done so I can regen this truck tonight and see if the DPF codes will clear out. We're just going to put a little bit of that on this gasket that I just made. Then we're going to rub it in and mix it, since it's all over my gloves. Okay. So now I've got to mate this end up with the turbo. This end comes out the turbo. This is bent right here for the exhaust manifold, so it'll clear it. And the turbo charging tube. And then this is the down pipe that goes down to the DPF doser. So we're going to go ahead and install that, and then we should be good. Gonna take my glove off to stop the camera. It's back together. I went ahead and put some of that joint compound on that connection. And that one there, and then you see the pipe I put in, and the gasket down there as well. But I had to put in that bottom section first, and then put in this top section. I had to separate it to get it in there. So anyway, I'm going to fire this thing up and regen it, and reckon we'll see y'all later.